Sarah rushed with the children, already late for work, when William cried out for help. She stopped, even though she knew she'd be even later. 3 months later, 4 lawyers and security guards knocked on her door. What they revealed changed her life forever. Before we begin today's story, tell me where you're watching from, grab a coffee, or get comfortable on the couch. And please don't forget to support us by clicking like. That way, I'll know you enjoy this type of story. Ready? Let's begin. The alarm clock rang at 5 in the morning, as always. Sarah opened her eyes and for a moment lay still, staring at the cracked ceiling of her small apartment. Another day, another struggle. She got up slowly, trying not to wake her children sleeping in the next room. In the bathroom, she looked at herself in the mirror. At 32, she felt like she carried the weight of 50. The deep circles under her eyes told the story of sleepless nights, worries about bills, and the constant feeling that she couldn't give her children everything they deserved. "Mommy!" David's sleepy voice, 7 years old, echoed through the hallway. "Coming, sweetie. Go back to sleep." She prepared breakfast with the little she had in the fridge. Toast and milk. Always the same thing. She left everything ready for when the children woke up and wrote a loving note, as she did every day. The walk to work took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of reflection, planning, and hope. She cleaned 3 commercial buildings before people arrived for work. It was a job nobody saw, but it made her feel useful. At least she was working. When she arrived at the first building, something different caught her attention. At the entrance of the residential building next door, an elderly man with white hair was sitting on the ground, leaning against the wall. He seemed confused, disoriented. She looked at her watch. She was already late. The building manager where she worked was known for his impatience, and she couldn't afford to lose this job. But something in that man's eyes made her stop. "Are you all right, sir?" she asked, approaching him. The man looked up. His eyes were blue, kind, but there was a deep sadness in them. I think I'm lost," he said, his voice trembling. "I live here, but I can't remember which apartment is mine." She looked around. It was early. There was no one on the street. The building attendant for the residential building wouldn't arrive until 7. "What's your name?" "William. William Smith." "All right, Mr. William. Let's figure out where you live." She helped him up. He was frailer than he seemed. Together, they walked to the entrance of the residential building. There was a resident directory on the intercom. "Here," he pointed to the name. "Apartment 101, ground floor." "Perfect, let's go there." She accompanied him to the apartment door. He searched his pockets for keys, each movement slow and uncertain. "Thank you very much, my dear," he said, finally finding the keys. "I don't know what I would have done without your help." "It was nothing, Mr. William. Will you be all right?" He smiled, and for the first time that morning, the smile reached his eyes. "Yes, now. Thank you so much." She waved and hurried off. She arrived at work 15 minutes late. The building manager reprimanded her, deducted from her pay, but she didn't even care. There was something about that encounter that had left her feeling different. Throughout the day, she thought about William. There was something about him that had deeply touched her. Perhaps it was his vulnerability. Perhaps it was the fact that he was alone, as she so often felt. When she finished work in the late afternoon, she passed by the residential building again. She hesitated for a moment, then pressed the intercom. "Mr. William, it's Sarah, the woman who helped you this morning. I just wanted to check if you're all right." His voice sounded relieved through the intercom. "I'm so glad you came back. Can you come up? Can you come down here? It's the ground floor." When the door opened, she saw a completely different man. He was neatly dressed in clean clothes, his hair combed. His eyes shone with gratitude. "Please come in. I was hoping for a way to thank you." The apartment was simple but cozy, old but well-maintained furniture. Black and white photos scattered around the living room showed a young man at different moments of his life. She recognized the blue eyes in all of them. "Is that you in the photos?" "Yes, many years ago," he replied, heading to the kitchen. "Would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot." "You don't have to bother, Mr. William. I just wanted to make sure you were all right." "I insist. It's the least I can do." She accepted, more out of a need to sit down for a bit than a desire for coffee. The day had been long and her feet ached. "Do you have family?" he asked, serving coffee in delicate porcelain cups. "I have 2 children, David, 7 years old, and Amy, 5. "And their father?" The question caught her off guard, but there was something in his gentle way of asking that made her answer truthfully. "We haven't had contact in 2 years. He decided he didn't want to be a father." William nodded with understanding. "It must be very difficult to raise 2 children alone." "It is, but they are my strength. I work in 3 buildings in the morning, and in the afternoon I take care of Mrs. Henderson, an elderly lady who lives in my neighborhood. It's a rush, but we manage." "3 jobs?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, the money isn't much, but at least we can pay the rent and buy food." They talked for almost an hour. William explained he had been a widower for 5 years, had no children, and his only relatives lived far away. He explained that sometimes he got confused, especially in the morning, and that the doctor had said it was normal for someone his age. "That's why I got lost today. I sometimes wake up not knowing where I am." "That must be frightening." "It is. But today was different. You appeared like an angel." She laughed, embarrassed. "No angel, Mr. William. I'm just a person who saw someone needing help." When she said goodbye, he insisted she take a bag of fruit and some cookies. "For the children," he said, smiling. The next day, when she passed by the building on her way to work, she saw him again sitting at the entrance, looking lost. This time, she didn't hesitate. "Good morning, Mr. William. Shall we go home?" He smiled with relief at seeing her. "You came back." "Of course I came back. Now let's go. You'll catch a cold out here." This ritual repeated for the next few days. Every morning she found him disoriented at the building's entrance. Every morning she helped him back home. And every afternoon, when she finished work, she stopped by for coffee and conversation. Gradually, she learned more about him. William had been an engineer, working for decades at a large company. He had a fond way of speaking about the past, about the wife he had lost, about the dreams he had had. "You know," he said one afternoon, "you remind me a lot of her. My wife also had such a generous heart. I'm sure she was a wonderful person." "She was, and you are too." A week passed, then 2. The routine was established. She arrived early, found William confused at the entrance, helped him back home, went to work, and in the late afternoon returned to chat. The children began to ask why she was coming home later. "I'm helping an elderly gentleman who lives alone," she explained. "He sometimes gets confused and needs help." "Is he nice?" Amy asked. "Very nice, and you would really like him. Can we go meet him? Perhaps one day." In the 3rd week, something different happened. When she arrived at the building on Thursday morning, William wasn't at the entrance. She looked around, worried. Could it be that he was fine and didn't need help today? She pressed the intercom for apartment 101. "Mr. William, it's Sarah." Silence. She pressed again. Still no answer. A tightening in her chest made her look for Robert, the building superintendent who had just arrived. "Good morning. The gentleman in 101, William Smith. Have you seen him today?" "No, I haven't. Why?" She quickly explained the situation. Robert, a kind man, offered to check. "I have a spare key. Let's take a look." When they opened the apartment door, they found William fallen in the bathroom. He was conscious but clearly injured. "Mr. William, what happened?" "I fell during the night," he said, his voice weak. "I couldn't get up." Robert immediately called an ambulance. Sarah stayed by William's side, holding his hand as they waited. "You came," he murmured. "I knew you would." "Of course I came. I always do." At the hospital, doctors found he had fractured his hip. Nothing serious, but he would need to stay hospitalized for a few days and then do physical therapy. "Are you his daughter?" the doctor asked. "No, I'm a friend who helps him." "Well, there are no family members on his chart. Could you be the contact person?" She looked at William, who nodded slightly. "Yes, of course." For the next 5 days, she visited him every afternoon after work. She brought flowers, fruit, and most importantly, companionship. William was visibly more cheerful when she arrived. "The nurses ask if you're my daughter," he said, smiling. "I tell them it's better than that. She's a daughter I chose." "And you're a father I gained," she replied, surprising herself with her own sincerity. On Saturday, she finally managed to bring David and Amy to meet him. The children were initially shy, but William had a special way with them. Soon they were laughing at his stories and drawings he made on napkins. "I like him, Mommy," David said as they left the hospital. "Is he Grandpa?" Amy asked. "He's a very special friend, sweetie." When William was discharged, she insisted on helping him move back home. The doctor had recommended he not be alone for the first few days. "I can't accept that," he protested. "You already do so much for me." "Mr. William, you would do the same for me, wouldn't you?" "Without a doubt. Then it's settled." She managed to arrange her work schedule to spend more time with him during his recovery. She brought the children some afternoons, and they did their homework at the kitchen table while she prepared dinner for everyone. "You know," William said one of those afternoons, watching Amy color a drawing and David read aloud, "It's been years since a house felt so alive." Children do bring life. You bring life. The three of you have transformed my days. It was true. Sarah also felt that something had changed. The routine, which had once been just about survival, now had moments of joy. William had become part of the family in a natural, organic way. "Sarah," he said, one Thursday evening after the children were already asleep on the sofa, "I need to talk to you." There was something different in his tone of voice, more serious. "Of course, Mr. William, what is it?" He went to an old piece of furniture and took some papers from a drawer. "There are some things about me you don't know. Important things." She felt a chill in her stomach. Could it be something serious? Some illness he hadn't told her about? "You can tell me anything." He sat at the table, indicating for her to do the same. "My full name is William Smith Thompson, and I'm not exactly who you think I am." But that day would arrive sooner than she imagined, and in a way that would change everything. Sarah felt her heart race. The serious way William spoke, the papers on the table, everything indicated that something important was coming. "What do you mean by that, Mr. William?" He sighed deeply, as if he had been carrying a weight for a long time. "During all these years, I worked as an engineer, that's true. But I wasn't an ordinary engineer. I developed projects for a construction company that became one of the largest in the country." She watched him, trying to understand what he was getting at. "Over time, I ended up becoming a partner. Then, when the original owner retired, I bought the entire company. For 40 years, I ran one of the most successful construction companies in the US. Sarah felt as if the ground was moving beneath her feet. "Mr. William, I don't understand." "What I'm trying to say is that I have resources, many resources. When I retired, I sold the company and invested the money. I never had to worry about bills or expenses. But then why do you live in this simple apartment? Why do you live so modestly?" he completed, smiling sadly. "Because after my wife died, I discovered that money doesn't buy the only thing that truly matters. True companionship, genuine affection." He pointed to a photo on the wall of a young couple smiling. "Eleanor and I didn't have children. We tried for years, but it wasn't possible. When she passed, I realized I had built a fortune, but I hadn't built a family. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. In recent years, I lived surrounded by people who were only interested in my money. Employees, neighbors, even some distant relatives who suddenly appeared. Everyone wanted something. That's why I moved to this apartment. I wanted to find out who I was without the fortune, who would care about me as a person. Mr. William, and then you appeared. A struggling woman with 2 children to raise, working 3 jobs, and yet you stopped to help a confused old man on the street. You didn't know who I was. You didn't know if I had anything to offer. You simply helped. He took her hand. In the last 2 months, for the first time in years, I've felt like part of a real family. David shows me his drawings as if I were his grandfather. Amy tells me secrets as if I were someone special in her life. And you treat me like a father. Sarah couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face. I'm not telling you this so you'll change the way you treat me. I'm telling you because I want you to know that your kindness did not go unnoticed, that your generosity touched the heart of someone who had given up on believing in the goodness of people. I didn't do anything special, Mr. William. I did what anyone should do. But not everyone does. You did, even when you were late for work, even when you had your own worries, even when you knew nothing about me. They remained silent for a moment, just holding hands. And now what happens? She finally asked. Now, nothing changes. We'll continue to be family. The only difference is that, if you allow it, I'd like to help you and the children as you've helped me. Mr. William, you don't have to. I do. I need to feel like I can give back some of the joy you've brought into my life. That night, when she returned home with the children asleep in her arms, Sarah could barely process what had happened. Her life had changed completely, but at the same time, nothing had changed. William was still the same kind person she had learned to love as a father. In the following weeks, William kept his word. Nothing changed between them, but gradually, small improvements began to appear in Sarah's and the children's lives. First, he insisted on paying for a health insurance plan for the 3 of them. It's the least I can do, he said when she protested. You take care of me, I take care of you. Then he showed up with new school supplies for David and Amy. I saw they were using very small pencils, he explained, and David deserves some new books to encourage reading. Sarah tried to refuse, but he had a way of making everything seem natural, necessary. Mr. William, this is getting to be too much. What's getting to be too much is you working 3 jobs and still taking care of me. Let me help. Ligi, it was then that he made a proposal that would change everything. How about you quit 2 of those cleaning jobs and come work for me? What do you mean? I need someone to help me, do groceries, organize medications, accompany me to doctor's appointments, and you could all come live in the apartment upstairs. It's been empty for years. Sarah felt her heart race. Mr. William, I can't accept that. Why not? It would be a real job. I'd pay a fair salary and you'd have a better place to live. It's a business proposal. But she knew it wasn't just business. It was his generous heart finding a way to help without making her feel embarrassed. That night she talked to the children. Want to hear some news? Grandpa William has invited us to live near him. How cool, Amy shouted, jumping up and down. Are we going to live in Grandpa's house? Not in his house, but nearby, on the floor above. David, always more observant, asked, Why are we moving, Mommy? She explained as simply as possible that William needed help and that she would be working by taking care of him. Like you took care of us when we were little? Amy asked. Exactly like that. So he's going to be like our real family? Sarah smiled. He already is our real family, sweetie. The move happened on a sunny Sunday. William had hired a company to transport the few pieces of furniture they had. When they arrived at the upstairs apartment, Sarah almost cried. The place was completely furnished. There was a twin bed for each child with colorful quilts and fluffy pillows. The master bedroom had a new double bed, a spacious closet. The kitchen was equipped with everything she could dream of. "Mr. William, this is too much." "It's a home, Sarah. A family deserves a real home." David and Amy ran through the apartment, exploring every corner. It was 3 times larger than the place they lived before. "Mommy, look!" Amy shouted. "There's a TV in my room, and books." David had discovered a bookshelf full of children's books in his room. That first night in the new house, after the children were asleep, Sarah went downstairs to have coffee with William. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you. For the first time in years, this building has life again. It has children's laughter. It has family noise. The children adore you, and I adore them. You know, I have a confession to make." Sarah looked at him, curious. "Remember when you asked me why I sometimes got confused in the morning?" "Yes." "Well, that's true. But after the first few times you helped me, I started going out purposefully early to make sure we'd meet." Sarah's eyes widened. "Mr. William, I needed that part of the day. I needed to know that someone cared enough to stop and help." They laughed together, and Sarah realized she had found something she didn't know she was looking for: a complete family. The following months were the happiest Sarah had experienced in years. The new routine was completely different. She woke up, prepared breakfast for everyone, took the children to school, and then took care of William. Her responsibilities were light, accompanying him to medical appointments, doing groceries, organizing his medications, and most importantly, providing companionship. They talked for hours, watched old movies together, and sometimes simply sat in silence, each reading their book. "You know," William said one Friday afternoon, "it's been 40 years since I felt so rested." "What do you mean? When you work thinking only about making money, you never truly rest. Your head is always worried about the next project, the next goal. Now, for the first time, I can simply exist." David and Amy adapted perfectly to their new life. They had more space to play, better materials to study, and most importantly, they had William, who had become the grandfather they never had. "Grandpa William," Amy said one afternoon, "can you teach me how to make those pretty drawings you do?" "Of course, Princess. Let's start with flowers. Your mom really likes flowers." Sarah watched these interactions with a full heart, seeing the children have a father figure. Someone who listened to them with patience and genuine interest was a gift she never thought they could have. One afternoon, while the children were doing their homework at the living room table, William called Sarah for a private conversation. "I need to talk to you about something important." His tone was serious again, like that night when he revealed his financial situation. "I'm worried about the future." "What do you mean?" "I'm 78, Sarah. I know I won't live forever. And when something happens to me, I need to make sure you'll be all right." Sarah felt a tightening in her chest. The possibility of losing William was something she had pushed to the back of her mind. "I don't want to talk about this." "But we need to talk. Please listen to me." He went to the office and returned with some papers. "I spoke with my lawyers last week. I want to get everything organized." "Mr. William, I have no children. I have no close relatives. The family I chose is you 3. That's why I want you to know that I've made some changes to my will." Tears began to form in her eyes. "You don't need to tell me this now." "I do. I want you to live peacefully, knowing that you'll be secure. This building, the financial investments, everything will be for you." "Mr. William, this is impossible. It's too much. It's my decision. You gave me a family when I needed it most. You gave me purpose when I had lost my reason for living. It's only fair that I ensure you have everything you need." But they talked for over an hour. William explained all the details, showed the papers, ensured everything was legal and well organized. "But I hope this is just a precaution," he said, smiling. "I plan to be here to see David graduate from college and Amy get married. And you will be. We'll make sure you stay." That night, Sarah could barely sleep. The conversation had deeply moved her, not because of the money, that was still difficult to process, but because of the idea of one day losing William. He had become much more than an employer or a friend. He was truly the father she had lost at 15. He was the grandfather the children never had. He was the solid foundation that had brought stability to their family. The next day, she decided she wouldn't talk about the subject anymore. They would simply live each day as if it were a gift, enjoying every moment together. But life, as always, had its own plans. It was a normal Tuesday in March when everything changed. Sarah had gone grocery shopping while the children were at school. William had said he would take a nap after lunch. When she returned an hour later, she found him in the armchair in the living room with a serene smile on his face. He seemed to be sleeping peacefully, but something made her approach with more attention. "Mr. William?" Silence. She gently touched his shoulder. "Mr. William?" It was then that she realized he had passed away silently, without pain, without suffering. He had simply fallen asleep and never woke up. Sarah stood still for a moment, holding his hand, still warm. Tears came slowly, first from sadness, then from gratitude. He had left in the most peaceful way possible, in the place that had become his home, surrounded by the love of a family he had chosen. She called the doctor, the hospital, made all the necessary calls. When David and Amy arrived home from school, she sat them down in the living room and gently explained, "Grandpa William has gone on a very special trip to a place where there is no pain or sadness, and from there he will continue to watch over us." Amy cried a lot. David, trying to be strong, asked if they would have to move again. "I don't know yet, sweetie, we'll see." The funeral was simple, as William had requested. Besides Sarah and the children, some neighbors and the doctor who had been caring for him attended. Robert, the building superintendent, made sure to be there. "He was a good man," he said, "and you changed his life. He always talked about how happy you made him." 3 days after the funeral, Sarah was organizing William's belongings when the doorbell rang. Through the intercom, a male voice announced, "I'm Dr. Henry Miller, Mr. William Smith Thompson's attorney. I need to speak with Miss Sarah." When she opened the door, she saw not only the attorney, but also 3 other men in suits and 4 security guards. Her heart pounded. Could there be a problem? Some debt she didn't know about? "Miss Sarah," the lead attorney said, "may I come in? I need to discuss Mr. William's estate." She led them into William's living room. Dr. Henry was a man in his 50s, serious but kind. "First, my condolences. Mr. William was a very special client." "Thank you. Are you aware that Mr. William made some changes to his will recently?" "Yes, he told me." "Well, I need to officially inform you about the inheritance." He opened a folder and took out several documents. "You and your children are the sole heirs to Mr. William Smith Thompson's entire estate." Even knowing this might happen, hearing it officially left her breathless. "This includes this building, which is worth approximately $2 million, plus 3 apartments in other neighborhoods, a beach house, and financial investments totaling about $15 million. Sarah felt as if she were floating. The numbers were impossible to process. "There is also," the attorney continued, "a personal letter he left for you." He handed her an envelope with her name written in William's neat handwriting. "Would you like to read it now, or would you prefer privacy?" "Now is fine." With trembling hands, she opened the envelope. "My dearest chosen daughter, if you are reading this letter, it means I have departed to reunite with my Eleanor. Do not be sad. I am at peace, and I know you will be well. Never forget that you saved my life long before I saved yours. When you found me lost that morning, you also found my lost humanity. You and the children gave me the happiest months of my entire life. This money is not a reward for your kindness. Kindness cannot be bought or sold. It is simply my way of ensuring that you have all the opportunities you deserve. Use it to be happy, to educate David and Amy, to do the good I know you will do. I love you as if you were my own children and grandchildren. Until we meet again, your father by heart, William. Sarah cried as she read each word. It was the most loving farewell she could imagine. The following months were a period of deep adaptation. Sarah had to learn to deal not only with William's loss, but also with the family's new financial reality. Dr. Henry helped her with all the paperwork and legal matters. She discovered that William had been even more careful than she imagined. He had created a specific education fund for David and Amy, ensuring they could attend the best schools and universities. He really thought of everything, the attorney said during one of their meetings, including how to protect the assets so you would never be in need. Sarah decided to continue living in the same apartment. She didn't want drastic changes in the children's lives, who were already coping with the loss of their beloved grandfather. David, now 8, sometimes asked, "Mommy, are we rich now?" "We are blessed, sweetie. Grandpa William left us resources so we can live well and help other people too." And that was exactly what she had decided to do. Inspired by William's kindness, Sarah created a routine of helping needy people in the neighborhood. Every Friday, she and the children visited the local senior living facility, bringing fruit, chatting with residents, and offering companionship. It was a way to honor William's memory and teach her children about generosity. "Why do we do this, Mommy?" Amy asked on one of these visits. "Because Grandpa William taught us that when we have a lot, we should share with those who have little, and the most important thing we can share is our time and affection." Sarah also decided to go back to college. She had always dreamed of getting a degree, but had never had the means. Now she enrolled in a social work program, wanting to learn how to help people more effectively. "I'm proud of you," David said when she told him about college. "Grandpa William would be proud too." One afternoon, 6 months after William's passing, Sarah was organizing some things when she found a folder she hadn't seen before. Inside, she discovered documents about other social projects he had kept secret. There were proofs of monthly donations to 3 orphanages, a children's hospital, and a community school. All payments had stopped after his death. She immediately called Dr. Henry. "William made these donations?" "Yes, for over 10 years. He never wanted publicity about it. I want to continue with all of them. Are you sure? They are significant amounts. I'm sure it's what he would do." That's how Sarah discovered a new dimension of William's kindness. He had been generous not only with his chosen family, but with dozens of other people over the years. On the first anniversary of his passing, Sarah organized a small ceremony in the apartment. She invited Robert, Dr. Henry, and some neighbors who had known William. "He changed our lives," she said, standing before his smiling portrait in the living room. "And through him, we learned that family isn't just blood. It's choice, it's care, it's true love." David read a poem he had written at school. "Grandpa, by heart, you taught us that love is helping without expecting anything, is being real family. Thank you for choosing us." Amy, now 6, placed a drawing in front of the photo. It was her, David and Sarah with William, all smiling under a rainbow. "For Grandpa in heaven," she said simply. That night, after the children were asleep, Sarah stayed in the living room, looking at William's photo. She felt his presence, his approval, his love continuing to guide her. "Thank you," she whispered to the photo. for teaching us that kindness always comes back multiplied, for showing us that family is much more than blood, and for continuing to watch over us, even from afar. Outside, a new morning was beginning. Somewhere in the city, someone was lost, confused, needing help. And Sarah knew that when that person appeared, they would find an outstretched hand, an open heart, and William's kindness continuing to live through all those he had touched. The seed he had planted had become an entire forest. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and share it with someone special. In the comments, tell us, have you helped a stranger today? Sometimes the simplest gesture can change a life forever.